Welcome to The Explainer. Now, if you are sick and tired of the biased reporting and the constant emotional drama that passes for news these days, then you have landed in exactly the right spot. Over the next 19 minutes or so, we're going to untangle some of the world's biggest headlines. Everything from a weird fruit dispute in Asia to a nuclear submarine popping up in the Atlantic. And I'm going to show you how all of it is, believe it or not, surprisingly connected.
All right, class is officially in session. Today, we are looking at 18 different stories from literally all over the globe. But I promise, this is not just some random list of headlines. Think of this as our lesson plan. We're going to weave all of them together across 4 major themes. First, we'll look at the high-stakes global game board. Then we'll see how those big moves affect real people in power, people, and pride. After that, we'll zoom out to look at a planet on the brink, and we'll wrap things up with shifting realities. I guarantee you, by the end of this, you will understand how a famously stinky fruit in Asia is somehow weirdly connected to a $10 billion energy deal in Afghanistan. Let's jump in. Okay, our first stop, the global game board. I want you to picture this giant, messy, multi-level game of chess. It's being played by nations, by huge corporations, by powerful alliances. But instead of pawns and rooks, the pieces are billions of dollars, they're critical minerals, their military hardware, and maybe most importantly, public opinion. Every single move, a drone strike, a trade deal, a quiet diplomatic visit, sends these little ripples across the entire board. And today, we're going to trace them.
So this game is being played under just immense pressure from every direction. Let's look at some of the active pieces on the board right now. First up, over in Eastern Europe, Ukraine has seriously escalated its strategy. They've launched these large-scale drone attacks deep inside Russian territory. And the targets are not random at all. They are strategically hitting oil refineries and military air bases. This is a brilliant two-pronged move. On the military side, it messes with Russia's fuel supply and all the logistics for its war effort. But psychologically, it's even more powerful. It completely pierces that bubble of normalcy for ordinary Russians, bringing the reality of the war right to their doorstep. It's a clear message that says, hey, nowhere is safe. At the very same time, we're seeing some classic Cold War-style posturing. The US just moved 2 nuclear submarines. The official reason? They're responding to some provocative statements from a Russian official. This is nonverbal communication on a global scale, a silent but incredibly loud show of force. It's basically the international equivalent of one heavyweight in a ring slowly taking off his jacket and just staring the other guy down. No words needed. The message of deterrence and capability is sent, loud and clear. Now let's shift our gaze over to West Africa, where the game is all about internal control. In Mali, the former Prime Minister, Moussa Mara, was just arrested and thrown in jail. And his big crime? A social media post that was critical of the ruling military government. This is a textbook case of how fragile power can be, and how, when a regime feels threatened, freedom of speech is always the first thing to go. Using a cybercrime unit to silence your critics is just a very modern tool for some very old-fashioned authoritarianism. And finally, even among allies, the pressure is financial. The European Union just cut an aid payment to Ukraine, not because they don't support the war, but because Kyiv missed some key anti-corruption deadlines. This is the geopolitical version of, you didn't do your chores so you don't get your allowance. It's a powerful reminder that even in a crisis, international support almost always comes with strings attached, forcing really difficult, deep systemic reforms.
But this game board isn't just about conflict. It's also about making deals, and sometimes making deals with your worst enemy. Perfect example, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. For years, these 2 nations have been locked in a brutal, bloody conflict, often funded by and fought over the incredible mineral wealth in that region. And now, all of a sudden, with the US playing matchmaker, they're agreeing to cooperate on minerals and energy. So why the huge change of heart? The answer is really simple: Western investment. It's like you have 2 neighbors who've been feuding over their property line for decades, suing each other, building fences out of pure spite, and then a developer shows up and says, look, if you 2 can just agree to share a driveway, I will build you both brand new houses for free. Suddenly, that old feud seems a lot less important, doesn't it? Money talks. And in this case, the promise of connecting to a strategic transport corridor and attracting Western capital is powerful enough to turn bitter rivals into business partners.
And speaking of money talking, How about $10 billion? That is the absolutely staggering size of a new energy contract the Taliban administration just signed at Afghanistan with a private company. This is one of the single largest private investments in the country since the Taliban came back to power. Let's just pause and really think about the implications of that for a second. You have one of the most ideologically rigid, internationally isolated regimes on the entire planet, making massive, pragmatic deals to keep the country running. It is the ultimate proof that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your political philosophy is, you have to keep the lights on and the water running. It shows that economic reality has this gravitational pull that is just almost impossible to escape. Ideology is one thing, but you know what? Pragmatism almost always beats politics when the power grid is on the line and your people need basic services. This deal is a quiet signal to the world that, out of pure necessity, they are open for business.
Now, for my absolute favorite piece on the game board today, a fruit. A very pungent fruit, to be specific. The durian. China has just slapped these new, tighter import rules on Vietnamese durians, and they're citing these vague health risks that have to do with pests. Now let's put on our detective hats. Who just so happens to be Vietnam's biggest rival in the multi-billion-dollar Chinese durian market? Oh, that would be Thailand. You see the move? This is a masterful use of bureaucratic red tape as a subtle but incredibly powerful economic weapon. It's something called a non-tariff barrier. You don't have to start a big, noisy trade war. You just have to discover a health risk that, gosh, just conveniently hurts your competitor. It's a tool to gain leverage or to reward one trading partner over another without firing a single shot. And it proves that in the grand game of geopolitics, literally anything, even a spiky, stinky fruit that some people say smells like gym socks and onions, can become a strategic asset.
Finally, on our game board, it's crucial to remember that the players are always looking for new allies and new angles of influence. First, take a look at Malaysia. Its monarch is planning a historic state visit to Russia. Now, in a world where countries are being pressured to pick a side, this is a really significant move. It's a clear signal of geopolitical diversification. It's like when you're updating your professional network. You don't want to rely on just one connection for everything. This is a quiet rebellion against the bipolar world, a sign that these middle powers are hedging their bets and keeping all their options open. And this maneuvering for influence, it doesn't just happen between countries, it happens inside them too. In the United States, a key governor at the Federal Reserve, which is one of the most powerful economic institutions on the planet, is resigning early. That one empty seat on the board is a massive opportunity. It gives the president the chance to appoint someone who could help steer the entire U.S. economy, influencing everything from interest rates to inflation, which in turn affects the entire global economy. One single resignation can literally change the financial weather for millions and millions of people all around the world.
So, we've seen the big picture, right? That 30,000-foot view of the game board. Now for our second theme, let's zoom all the way in. We're talking about power, people, and pride. This is where those abstract strategic moves we just talked about, the mineral deals, the political pressure, this is where they crash right into the messy, the tragic, and sometimes the beautiful reality of individual human lives. We're going from that satellite view right down to the street view to see the human cost and the human heart behind these headlines.
Let's start with just a number, 2. It's a small number on a page, but it represents an absolutely immeasurable loss. 2 workers have now been confirmed dead after a partial mine collapse at Chile's El Teniente mine. And this isn't just any mine. It is the largest underground copper mine on the entire planet. As rescue operations continue at this massive, sprawling site, this number serves as a really stark reminder of something we often prefer to forget.
This is the direct, tragic link right back to our game board. We talked about the DRC and Rwanda bartering with mineral rights, as if they're just abstract game pieces. But this is the reality. The copper that's needed for the smartphone that's probably in your pocket, for the wiring in your house, for the electric car you might be driving, it all has a profound human cost. Every single piece of technology we celebrate has a supply chain that starts deep underground, often in incredibly dangerous conditions. So while governments and corporations are playing chess with these resources, real people are risking and sometimes losing their lives just to pull them out of the ground. This is the hidden price tag on our modern world. And it's a price that's paid by people, not by nations.
The human story isn't only about cost, though. Sometimes it's also about justice. In a court in Myanmar, a really significant verdict was just handed down: life in prison for 5 Chinese nationals. Their crime was trafficking vulnerable women across the border into forced marriages. This is a horrific, exploitative industry that preys on poverty and desperation, treating human beings like they are commodities. In a region where cross-border crime is just rampant and justice can be incredibly elusive, this verdict is a rare and powerful signal of accountability. Yes, it's a small victory against a vast criminal network, but for the victims and for their families, it is a crucial, life-changing moment of justice finally being served. And that brings us to the story of human resilience, community, and pride. We're seeing it flower in 3 very different places all over the world. In the city of Curitiba, in Brazil, migration patterns are shifting in real time. For the very first time, more Cubans than Venezuelans are now seeking asylum there. But how do you build a new life in a new country? For them, the answer is forming softball leagues. It's just a perfect, beautiful example of finding home and connection through something as simple as a shared game. It's building community one base hit at a time. Then we go to Kosovo, a young nation that's still forging its identity on the world stage. They just granted citizenship to the global pop superstar Dua Lipa. Now, this isn't just some celebrity headline, this is a nation using its soft power. It is a massive institutional thank you to a cultural icon who gives them a voice and a positive image all around the world. That is national pride in action. And finally, in Amsterdam, the city's famous canals were just transformed into this floating festival of love and identity for the annual Pride Canal Parade. This is so much more than a party. It's a massive, joyful, powerful statement about acceptance and the freedom to be exactly who you are, turning the city's historic waterways into a vibrant celebration of human identity.
Okay, for our third theme, we are zooming the camera out again, way out. We've talked about the games that nations play, we've talked about the people living through them. But what about a player that is bigger than all of them combined? A player that doesn't negotiate, doesn't care about our borders, and definitely does not respond to sanctions? Let's talk about the planet itself, a force that has a way of reminding everyone, very, very forcefully, who is really in charge.
Yeah, it looks like the Arctic Circle did not get the memo about being cold this year. Right now, the Nordic countries, including areas well inside the Arctic Circle, are just sizzling in a record-shattering heat wave. We are seeing temperatures a whopping 8 to 10 degrees Celsius, that's about 14 to 18 degrees Fahrenheit, above normal. This is not some abstract climate model for the year 2050, this is today's weather report. And it has immediate consequences. Infrastructure like roads and buildings that were built for permafrost are now at risk. Local ecosystems are being thrown into total chaos. It is clear and present proof that climate change isn't some distant problem for our grandkids anymore. It's here, and it is actively rewriting the fundamental operating system of our planet in real time.
Meanwhile, over in Indonesia, a volcano just reminded us of a very different kind of planetary power. Mount Levotobi Laki-Laki violently erupted, shooting a column of volcanic ash 18 kilometers straight up into the atmosphere. That is nearly 60,000 feet high. That's twice the cruising altitude of a passenger jet. For days, it's been spewing this ash, grounding flights across the entire region and blanketing villages in this thick gray powder. And this event serves as the perfect, dusty reminder of a simple truth:
that our flight schedules, our supply chains, our meticulously planned lives are at best just suggestions. You cannot negotiate with a volcano. You can't put a tariff on an ash cloud. You can't sanction an earthquake. This is the ultimate reality check. It is a force of nature that operates on a geologic timescale with a power that just completely dwarfs all of our human endeavors. It shows that for all the complex games we play on the surface of this planet, we are still just guests, living on a very powerful and very active host.
Okay, on to our final theme: shifting realities, new frontiers. So we've seen the geopolitical games, we've seen the human impact, and we've seen the raw power of the planet. So the big question is, how are we as humans changing in response to all of this? From our deep-seated political beliefs to our fundamental understanding of biology, let's look at how the future isn't just waiting for us, it's already here.
This is absolutely fascinating. We are witnessing a profound psychological shift happening on a continental scale.
A new, major survey has revealed that a majority of Europeans now support increased defense spending. And even more surprisingly, many are now in favor of reintroducing mandatory military service. Let's just let that sink in. For over 70 years, the post-war European project has been largely defined by peace, economic integration, and soft power. The very idea of large standing armies was seen as a relic of a very dark past. This survey suggests the public mood is shifting, and shifting dramatically. It's a move from kumbaya to lock the doors, and it's being driven directly by the threats we saw on the global game board, demonstrating how external pressures can completely transform a continent's entire self-perception and its priorities for the future.
And while our political realities are shifting, so are our scientific ones. Quick pop quiz from high school biology. What are mitochondria? I bet you know this. Everyone say it with me. The powerhouse of the cell. Correct. It's drilled into all of our heads. Well, get ready to update your textbook. Scientists are now proposing a revolutionary new role. They are exploring how these tiny cellular engines can be used for healing, acting not just as the cell's powerhouse, but as its internal hospital. The research is focused on their role in signaling cell repair and regeneration. This isn't just a small update. This could rewrite the future of regenerative medicine. It could open up frontiers for treating diseases we currently see as incurable, everything from neurodegenerative disorders to heart disease. The idea of using our own biological hardware as the ultimate repair kit, that is the future of personalized medicine, and it is happening right now.
And that's our tour of the connected world for today. By drawing these lines between a volcano, a pop star, a drone attack, and a spiky fruit, we really hope we've given you a clearer map to navigate the news. Our mission is to keep providing this kind of factual, unbiased perspective, which is why we'll eventually have a small subscription of about £1 a month. For now, it's completely free, but your future support is what will keep this explainer independent, ad-free, and focused only on the fact.
If you enjoyed this way of looking at the news, the absolute best way you can support us is to spread the word. Please follow us on Spotify and YouTube to get this explainer every morning at 8 a.m. GMT. You can also find our daily headlines on Instagram at world.oneread. And please, share this with anyone in your life who you think would appreciate a calmer, clearer take on the news. Every single share helps us in our mission to cut through all the noise.
We will be back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. GMT with more headlines and more connections to make. Until then, here's a final question for you to chew on. We've seen how geopolitics, people, the planet, and science are all shaping our world in real time. So, what forces will shape your tomorrow?